Thank you for joining our Scraps Challenge 2018. So what I have here is a box of scraps that I have acquired from most of our sewing classes and projects. Now what you'll notice is some of my scraps are big, some are really small, some are awkwardly shaped. It doesn't really matter. The beauty of this is not quilting, so we're not going to have to cut it into squares or circles. They don't have to be equal in size. All you need to do is just even out your shapes. It doesn't matter what you want, if you want to use 2 pieces, if you want to use 50 pieces, 60 pieces, as long as you've got enough. The next thing you need is dissolvable stabilizer. Now this is very important for holding down your fabrics in place, and it will also allow you to see what you're sewing on your fabrics as well. Finally, you would need your backing fabric. Now I've got this wonderful piece of fabric. I call it wonderful, but it's got lots of stains. It's discarded. I couldn't use it for anything else, so this will lend itself properly to my project. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take our box of fabrics and we're going to go to the ironing board, and we're going to press, and we're going to cut out the fabrics as well, because some of them are really long, it's got strangly bits, and it's got all sorts of, so we're just gonna just make them look nice into whatever sizes and pieces we want. Some of them I'm going to leave, some of them I'm going to cut, but I just want to make sure I get rid of all the nasty bits at the end. And once I've done that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them out so I can decide on what fabrics I want to use. Next is to decide on the size of my handbag, which is about 16 inches wide. Now the size of your handbag is totally up to you. I've also decided I want a curved bottom, and I've used a curved ruler to achieve that. The size and shape of your bag is totally up to you as well, so you can do what you want as long as you've got enough fabric. So once we've done that, the next step is to place our pieces of fabric on our backing. It's almost like a jigsaw puzzle. Just do what works for you, and I'm going to do what works for me. So I've placed all of that on my backing. It's completely covered. Now I'm going to place my dissolvable stabilizer on all the fabrics to make sure they're secure, and once I've secured them, I am going to pin the stabilizer all the way around to my fabric. And the reason I'm doing this is to ensure that my fabric does not move. So I'm going to do it round the edge, and I'm also going to pin some in the middle as well, just to ensure that it stays in place, because you don't want any of your fabrics moving. So as you can see, I have done that, and it's in place. See, nothing's moving. So once that's been done, now I would like to further hold those fabrics down by sewing round the edges with a tacking stitch. There's no need for your reverse stitch, just sew it all the way around using your tacking stitch. You can take it off later, you can leave it, it doesn't really matter. So just sew it all the way around, giving about 5/8 of an inch for your allowance, and that's fine. Now once that's been done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the pins out, and then I am going to sew from one corner of my fabric to the other corner. So I'm going to make like a diagonal line across. I'll do that on both sides, so we have the stitches going from one corner to the other. So you start from that corner and go all the way down, and you do that for the other side as well. And what this does is it holds all your fabrics in place. It just kind of like a security blanket for your project. And now I'm going to choose one of my fancy stitches, and I'm going to start sewing the edges of my fabric. Now this particular part of your project will be longer for some people and will be shorter for some people. It all depends on the amount of fabrics you're using. I have about 40 pieces, and I intend to stitch all the edges very neatly using my fancy stitches. So this might take me a while to do, but there's no rush. You want to make sure you have it looking really nice once it's been done. And then once you've done that, you there's going to be a stitch in the middle which you placed initially to hold the fabric down, and don't forget to take your pins out. So once you've done all of that, you will see that your fabrics are beginning to look well and truly in place. And yeah, you are ready to move to the next stage. So this will take you a while, like I said, but you know, take your time, do it neatly. It doesn't matter if you miss some parts of it, it will still look good because you will have quite a lot of stitches going on. So choose the best stitch which works for you. I like the stitch I chose. I've got about 100 stitches on my machine, so that works for me. So once that's done, if you have a look, you can see I have beautiful stitches. I have captured the edges of the fabrics. They've all been sewn down, and I probably would have to take off this tacking stitch which I had in the middle at the end, and that's it. That's done. And if you have a look at the reverse, that's what it looks like. You can see all the stitches I've been doing, and it looks very nice. So join us for part 2 where we do the next side.